Victoria Trabosh, executive coach and international speaker, invites you to have your group transformed through practical, humorous, and insightful wisdom.
Itafari is the name of the foundation, and it is the Kinyarwanda word for brick. And we chose a brick because a brick represents the weight of a malnourished child that cannot be comforted. A brick is the burden that a woman carries down a path as she struggles to find a way to feed her family. And a brick is the color of the soil that did not feed its people. But a brick also represents hope. And one brick alone can do nothing. But together, we are rebuilding the country of Rwanda, Itafari by Itafari by Itafari. And we are small. But what is extraordinary is that we do it anyway. That I'm not worried about how big we get before we can make a difference. That I know that any lives we touch, any life we touch has changed the world. Do you know that in your business? Do you know that any single life you touch can change the world, and you will never know in what way?
Vicky Trabosh distills abstract ideas into real-life solutions. Whether she is presenting a keynote speech, facilitating a workshop, or coaching a Fortune 500 executive, Vicky speaks with clarity and authority on topics of self-empowerment, integrity, and success. Her energy, humor, humility, and insight leave audiences inspired, rededicated to their goals, and focused on success. Vicky's speeches are customized to the needs and goals of her audience. Her intention is that they walk away with a better understanding of who they are, their relationship to the person sitting next to them, and their unique role and responsibilities in their organization.
There is more than enough for each of us to do in the world. So my first question to you is, what are you passionate about? What do you really care about? What would you love to change in the world? And then, of course, you must be very focused. People often say to me, thank you for your heart for Africa. And I say, I do not have a heart for Africa. I have a heart for Rwanda. And that is where my heart is. My bandwidth is about 9.5 million people. That's all I got. What I know is that my best work will be done in Rwanda. So that is the power of my focus. What is your focus? What do you care about? What are your goals? Do you know them? Have you stated them clearly? Because when you begin to state your goals, you begin to reach your goals. And often we think, they're too big, I can't put them down. Helping the country of Rwanda is bigger than anything I ever could have used as a goal, but it became so big, it became the goal. So one of the things I know about the power of focus is that when we focus on something, great things happen. One of the ways I show the power of partnership is in the baskets from Rwanda. This basket was made by the women of Rwanda. And it's a beautiful basket. And it started with 6 women weaving under a tree. There are now 3,500 women in this cooperative that weave baskets. These baskets are changing their lives. They are weaving a lasting peace. And in that opportunity to partner with other women, the women of Rwanda have changed their lives. One of the ways they don't whine is that if you know the stories of Rwanda, the Hutus and the Tutsis were fighting. Well, what was left was mostly women in the country. And one of the things that Joy and Janet, the cooperative that I work with, did was that they made the women work together. So a Hutu woman would sit next to a Tutsi woman, and she would say, you will not discuss the genocide. You will not discuss your losses. You will decide what you can build together. It has changed their lives. These baskets take about 6 to 8 hours. I would like to show you my basket. I go to Rwanda all the time. I thought, how hard could this be? So I'd like to show you my basket. I will meet with Rwandans. I say, can you do this for me? Well, Vicky, you must understand what we have going on here. And we go on and on and on. And I say, just tell me no. No. What I'm saying is that they will not tell me no. So I am a very big rebel in Rwanda. I am teaching women the power of oya, which means no. All they say is yego, 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 which means yes. I say oya. And I can get a whole group of women screaming, oh yeah, at me. And the men walk by going, this woman is not good. This white woman must go away. She's not good for our women. How do you use no to accomplish your greatest goals? Not to tell people no. And this is the scary part, my friends. You will think that if you tell somebody no, they won't like you anymore. You know what they do? They move on to somebody that's a lot weaker than you. Okay, if she won't say yes, somebody else will say yes. And that is, I promise you it's true. I have said no to so many things because when I say yes, I want to show up. When Vicky and I first started talking about this talk, we had a lot of conversations. And if I had just come in here to kind of give a canned speech about something I like to talk about, that would have been a whole different conversation. The Itafari Foundation started in August of 2005. In March of 2006, I was asked if I could speak at the United Nations. Itafari was 7 months old. What did I know? And it would have been so easy to step back because, let's face it, there are scholars. I remember meeting with one man who'd read my thing in the paper, and he wanted to have coffee with me. He was a professor of African studies. And I met with him, and he had this many books for me to read. I said, uh-oh, big trouble. I haven't read all those books. Because for him, most of it, much of it, and he'd been to Africa many times, was about you must understand this culture and this history. And I must admit, I have learned much in 4 years, but still, I'm not there. And yet, I was asked to speak at the United Nations. Now, if I'd spent all this time getting ready, I still am not ready to speak at the United Nations. But when I was asked to speak, I had faith that I was being called to this, to let go of my fears, and to have this speech at the United Nations. My mother had cancer, and she had chemo, and she had no hairs on her head except on her chin. And it was like, you must be kidding me. Is this some sort of cosmic joke? So Mother and I had a deal that if she could never remove her own whiskers, that was my job. Towards the end of her life, I was taking care of her. She was very quiet. She had lung cancer and all kinds of cancers. And I was her caregiver, which was my joy. And I was fussing with her one day. I said, I saw some whiskers. And, really, did she know? No. So I got out the Nair, did the 7 minutes, put the cream on. And then I said to her, because I was very close to her, I said, Mom, I removed your whiskers. And she smiled. And when she smiled at me, I knew she was in there. And that's accountability. That whole idea is that, do you keep your word? And are you accountable to others and yourself when no one else is looking? But one of the things that happens when I have done this over and over and over the years is that to ask someone, what are your 3 top qualities? What are 3 adjectives you would use to describe yourself? I cannot tell you how hard it is for people. The first thing they think of, they go, okay, I can't say that. And then it's like, oh, I don't want to brag. And it's not about bragging. It's about standing in your greatness. Because if I ask you to describe the 3 adjectives that described your best friend or someone you really loved, you go like that and you name them. My idea tonight is to remind you of who you are and what your 3 top qualities are. Because isn't that what a best friend would do for you? And what if we became our own best friend forever? What if we were the first one to support ourselves when we did something really well? Because I know we're the first one to spank ourselves when it doesn't go well. It's hard to try to show somebody else who they are. If you've got kids or parents or friends that don't see their beauty, and you tell them who they are, and they say, I just can't see it. How hard is that? What if they became their own best friend? What if they saw who they were?
Contact Vicky to learn more about how she can help you or your organization or company reach their highest goals.